What's going on, my fellow A-Plusers? Welcome back once again to a brand new video. It is I, your host, as always, Adam Perez, about to get into our Supergirl review for the episode titled Prom Night, as we wind up having ourselves a little bit of a time-traveling adventure here this week. So we're going to be breaking down the newest episode for you guys so far. And to be perfectly honest, going into this episode, after seeing the preview from last week, I was not enthusiastic about this episode at all. I think the fact that they started off this season with such great impact in its first 3 episodes, you know, giving us a really kind of focused storyline in regards to the Phantoms, along with Kara being trapped in the Phantom Zone and discovering her father and things like that. Some really intense storytelling over the first 3 episodes. So when I saw the preview, I just thought to myself, this is just going to be another filler episode, another feel good, like, let's go back in time, do some time traveling, get to wear some cool outfits sort of thing, right? Like, I really wasn't quite sure what the motivation of this week's episode certainly was going to be. But I got to tell you, going into this episode and actually fully watching it, I really enjoyed myself. I thought this was just a fun episode. I had a blast with it. Getting the opportunity to revisit sort of young Kara and Alex days, I thought was really fitting, especially for this final season. Getting the opportunity to see Kenny, also another one of the fantastic relationships that Kara had growing up as a kid, and then just the really strong performances that we wind up getting from the young actors that did play Kara and Alex, along with Peter Sudarso, who comes in to go ahead and play Kenny. For those of you who don't know Peter Sudarso, because I'm a big Power Ranger fan, actually comes to us from Power Rangers Ninja Steel. Not the best season, unfortunately, of Power Rangers, but Peter Sudarso certainly was a standout in that season for me. So I feel like we've actually seen some Power Rangers alums on Supergirl before. I believe we saw Brennan Mejia, who was the Dino Charge Red Ranger back in the day. I think he was, I can't remember what season of Supergirl it was, but I believe it might have been season 4, the Agents of Liberty season, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. So Power Ranger alums definitely have a thing about showing up on Supergirl, but I really love what Peter Sudarso was definitely doing in this episode, especially as Kenny, and to see just his relationship and his chemistry with somebody like a young Kara, I thought was brilliant. So really fun stuff. I think the decision to go ahead and have it focus especially on Nia along with Brainiac, I thought was a great collaboration of characters. I mean, one, because they're already a great couple together, but just their chemistry, their humor together just really works well, I feel like, in this time period that they go back to visit. And honestly, there is a little bit of part of me that feels weird about this being a time-traveling movie, or I should say a time-traveling episode. And, you know, because the first thing that comes to my mind is Back to the Future, right? Like, they go back to, like, the 50s or something like that. I can't remember the year that they travel back to, but it's just interesting to me that when I think of time traveling, for some reason I think of like going back to the 80s and the 90s, but the fact that time traveling to them to go back to the past in their high school days was early 2000s, like 2009. I mean, talk about making me feel old as hell, right? Like, just the idea of having to travel back to high school. I'm thinking early 2000s. Like, I don't even know if there was what the trend was for clothing back then, type of thing. It feels like it was just yesterday, honestly. So pretty crazy for a time traveling episode to only go back to 2009. Just goes to show how old I am. But I thought this was really fun, honestly. The fact that it is a 2-parter, I think, even surprised me. I thought this was just going to be sort of a fun one-off episode. You know, they would find Kara's DNA or the type of rare element that they're looking for and then make their way sort of back to Earth. But that clearly is not the case. I think this is really appropriate too, considering the fact that it is the last season, for them to go ahead and actually focus a little bit more on young Kara and young Alex, since this is in fact the last time that we're certainly going to see them. I do believe the young Alex and young Kara characters, or actors I should say, are the same actors that have played them in the past, so I am glad that they actually are getting an opportunity to reprise their roles here. But some really great fun times that we wind up having here. We get to clearly find out that because of the fact that they are going back to the future, when it comes to the character in Kenny, in their original timeline that we recall from the previous seasons, Kenny actually passed away. Kenny was actually murdered back during their high school period, if I'm not mistaken. But now that we've had Crisis on Infinite Earths, we are seeing that Brainiac crisis is still in fact affecting this brand new timeline in here, where you get to find out that it actually has changed Kenny's past, that on Earth Prime, Kenny actually does in fact survive. So this does give Alex and the rest of the crew just that disclaimer to Brainiac along with Nia, that or Nia here, the fact of don't change our past, right? Like I love the fact that Brainiac even gives sort of those Back to the Future rules. Let's not bump into ourselves, right? We might erase ourselves from time continuum sort of thing. So I thought that was pretty fun and clever. I feel like anytime you think about time travel, Back to the Future is the first thing that comes to your mind. So I love all the references that we always get whenever we do any time traveling episodes or movies in general. But I think the fact that alone that Alex gives that disclaimer of, you know, Kenny was dead, but now he's alive. Let's not change our pasts. It does make me wonder what will change exactly, right? I mean, we've already kind of seen the changes taking into effect. I mean, we've already seen Brainiac and Nia sort of I believe it's with the bounty hunter or whatever alien that they certainly are utilizing in this season. The fact that he was captured, but now their antics have caused this guy to become free, if you will. So they have kind of changed the past to a certain extent, and I'm kind of hoping that that's the extent of the past that they wind up changing. Because for me, it would just be absolutely heartbreaking if Kenny doesn't make it out of this two-part episode, right? If for somehow Kenny, who did die in the previous past, now dies in this current timeline, like I would hate to see what the ramifications of that are going to be, not only on Kara but also on Alex after all this time. And the one thing that I loved is that you clearly do get to see just the impact and how much Kenny certainly meant to these group of friends here. You know, clearly coming to find out that him and Kara, now that, you know, based off of the idea that Kenny knows her secret, they've been utilizing Kara's powers for good, if you will, right? Using them to kind of do some of the smaller things around the town, maybe save some cats and dogs, save some people that fell down wells, according to Alex, type of thing, right? So they definitely did have their Scooby-Doo sort of gang that they wind up having back in the day in Midvale High School. So and I also love the fact that because of the fact that he knows her past here, the idea of him trying to create their own makeshift fortress, or, you know, fort or hideout or cave or whatever the case may be, it definitely did give me kind of a Smallville vibes a little bit when you get to see Kenny introducing Kara to their new hideout, because of the fact that I think apparently, according to him, he has plans for them to kind of stick around in Midvale through college, so they can continue along with this superhero thing that they've got certainly going on. But we quickly come to find out in here that when it comes to Kara, she might have other plans when it comes to college that she hasn't quite told Kenny yet. And the one thing that I do love about Peter Sudarso, like, I don't even know how old this guy is, but he still plays these high school kids like to perfection. He still has this like innocent child aspect about him. You know, the idea of him falling in love, or, you know, clearly being in love and fascinated by Kara, certainly is showcased in this episode as well. So I really love the chemistry between Peter and the actress that plays young Kara in here, because I thought they came across great as just high school friends who might want to be other things, and really get along extremely great in here. And the one thing that I do love about visiting this young Alex and young Kara thing, is we get to see again what their relationship certainly was like growing up. I mean, we definitely know that there was a ton of tension, right? We've learned about this very early on in the Supergirl season, just based off of how Kara and Alex have had to get along. You know, they definitely have had to have their own conversations, right? You clearly get to see that Alex has always felt very much hindered as a kid, not being able to sort of live the life that she's wanted to, because of the fact that she has had to protect her sister in a sense. And so you do get those moments of headbutting and clashing, right? Very much where, you know, Kara clearly knows that she has abilities, wants to use them, maybe recklessly at times, not really understanding the bigger picture and the bigger world out there. But you do have somebody that, like Alex, who is older and has that more experience, but maybe kind of, while she certainly is trying to teach Kara some lessons in the values of life and understanding life a little bit more, the way that she maybe comes across probably doesn't necessarily go over very well with Kara, right? Like you could clearly see the frustration that's coming out of the voice of Alex when she's certainly talking to Kara. There certainly is some resentment there, and even though Alex is certainly speaking truth to the sense that, you know, Kara, you are still a kid. You don't really understand the real life ramifications of what you just going out there and using your powers can certainly mean, right? How it affects other people's lives, like moms or my own sort of thing, right? Like she's definitely has this selfish mentality, but I get the selfish mentality when you're still a kid and you're still young and you have a certain mindset. But you can clearly see the two different ideologies of Kara and Alex in here still clashing with one another. But again, it at least shows to me just the levels of protection that Alex certainly is trying to implement when it comes to Kara. She may be like a drill sergeant, right? And she may get on Kara's nerves from time to time, but you can clearly see the good intentions that are certainly there, even though it comes across with a lot of resentment and frustration. So I do love to see that we get to see just that relationship continuing to grow and build between these two, as difficult as it certainly is. So I really enjoyed it here this week. I mean, just as far as like even seeing Alex, we saw a young Cat Grant in here trying to interview Alex to kind of know what's going on in Midvale, right? Like even though Alex probably certainly would like to do things on her own, she certainly understands that she also has to protect Kara, right? So it's kind of giving the nonchalant interview, if you will, trying to dismiss what Cat Grant is certainly talking about in here. Again, all in order to go ahead and protect her sister. And speaking of young Cat Grant, the actress that they wind up getting in here, Eliza Helm, did an amazing job of portraying Cat Grant. Like she honestly looks like a young Clarissa Flockhart to me, honestly. So the fact that we can't have Clarissa Flockhart as the actual Cat Grant in here, this is just as good, honestly. So I thought she had a great performance in here, and she's really kind of doing her Daily Planet reporting thing in here. I mean, still same personality, certainly still same traits. Hearing her back talk to Perry White, her clearly doing things on her own, her little innuendos and like flirtations with the bartender that we wind up seeing in here. Just classic Cat Grant, but performed beautifully by Eliza Helm. So I'm really glad that they went this route with this young Cat Grant in introducing us to her. Like a part of me still hopes that maybe by the end of this season, even though it wraps up, that maybe Clarissa Flockhart pops up in here, whether it's a video message, FaceTime, whether she's actually in Canada, the film, who certainly knows. But I thought just the idea of the inclusion of a young Cat Grant was brilliant in here. And speaking of which, when it comes to brilliant performances, you know, I've already talked a little bit about Peter Sudarso, but I really continue to just love Jesse Rath, who plays Brainiac 5. I thought his chemistry in here with Kenny was brilliant. We clearly saw our Brainiac and Nia team kind of get split up. Brainy goes with Kenny, Nia goes with the girls and things like that. But I just thought it was funny, the idea of how much Brainiac refused to want to get involved with, causing issues or disrupting the timeline sort of thing. But here's the guy who seems like he fits perfectly back in high school. I mean, when it comes to Brainiac, talk about wanting to get involved in all the clubs. I think he wind up joining the Glee Club, and then he wind up joining the Math Club, and next thing you know, he's on the baseball team sort of thing. Just kind of falling down that rabbit hole of high school activities that seems just right up Brainiac's alley, if you will. I really had no idea that he had skills like that in regards to baseball, but the twirling of the bat and the swinging and the hitting the ball all at the same time. I do wonder if Jesse Rath has a baseball background, whether that be in high school, college, whatever the case may be. I am kind of curious about that. But again, just the combination of these two, I think Jesse and Peter really worked well off of each other to make for some great lighthearted moments, some really great laugh and humorous moments, and really just allowing somebody for Kenny to open up a little bit more about his feelings and relationship with Kara, and really their plans past Midvale High School, if you will. Supergirl. So I thought this was a great opportunity for a strong actor like Jesse Rath and his character Brainiac to really give Peter Sudarso that spotlight and that shine that he needs to really even grow that Kenny character even more than they wind up doing. So great stuff in here, and I absolutely had a blast with Brainiac. But for me, one of the really intriguing characters in here that's struggling with the concept and the idea of time traveling is Nia. Not so much of wrapping her head around what's certainly going on. She definitely understands that, but what's getting to her is the idea that she misses her mom. I think she really, I don't know if she thought that this was going to be an issue for her before she went on this time traveling journey, but the idea of meeting Kara and exchanging stories and falling into this trap of, okay, we're here, they understand that we're aliens, I guess we should just go ahead and roll with it, if you will. Opening up about both of their past lives, possibly both having lost their moms very early on in their life, type of thing, really kind of opens up those old wounds for Nia. The fact that she really didn't have her mom around to kind of teach her how to use her abilities. And we've seen Dreamer over the past couple of seasons really coming to her own and just doing some amazing work and really amplifying her powers. But there are aspects to what she is having premonitions on, not understanding how to read her dreams, if you will, that she really wishes that her mom was certainly around to kind of having taught her that, right? I mean, the important thing here is that when it comes to Dreamer, the idea of her powers being passed down through generations from mother to daughter is a really important thing. And to not have your mother around to teach you how to use those powers is pretty impactful when it comes to Nia. So knowing the fact that she now is in the past, going back to 2009, and knowing that her mom is alive during this time period, we do see her emotionally struggling with the idea of, do I call her, do I not call her, right? She even does attempt to call her here, but she winds up getting a voice message to actually hear her mom's voice again. I was actually kind of surprised that she didn't leave a voice message. I would have been interested to see if she had said anything at all, but she at least brings her worries up and concerns to Brainiac, who tries to understand the situation as best as she can. But I really do love this emotional struggle that we find Nia in, and it does make me wonder at some point in time, since this is a two-parter, will she sort of give in to that feeling and actually reach out to her mom? I don't think that she will, but I think it would be fascinating if she certainly did. I would certainly like to see what's going on, and especially considering the fact that we are in Earth Prime, right? Pasts definitely have changed, so I am kind of curious as to how much actually has changed, and if anything has changed when it comes to Nia's world also. So I do find this stuff pretty fascinating. And again, we get to see just the idea of Brainiac still dealing with his own stress levels and stress eating continuously in here, trying to find other ways to go ahead and handle his stress, working out, dropping down and doing some push-ups, right? The added stress of Nia having issues with her emotional issues, thinking about her mom, just adds even more for Brainiac in this episode. So Brainiac is all over the place, but I really love the chaos of this episode. I'm trying to see our super friends handle the fact of them being discovered so very early on in this episode and really doing their best to kind of fit in. For me, it was one of those things where this episode really focused a ton on its characters and did a ton of great character work. And even though it definitely was the lighthearted episode, I love the fact that they still paid attention to its characters, but at the same time, allowing for that fun with the villain design that we wind up getting, right? Because the villains definitely feel a little bit more over the top, even though we're not going back to the 80s. I feel like they kind of gave these aliens an even more retro look, if you will. Like, I feel like they have like mullets and braids and stuff, just really weird, kind of over the top, goofy designs, if you will. So while they definitely took their liberties to have some fun in that respect when it comes to the villains and maybe some of the humor and antics in this episode, I still love the fact that they managed to really have a just emotional and heartfelt and just really fun prom night episode so far. So I'm really excited expecting even more fun next week because of the fact that it's going to be the actual prom itself, and all this is just kind of leading up to it. But I was really surprised, man. Just had a fun and great time watching this episode. But as always, these are just simply my A+ opinions, guys. At the end of the day, I want to know yours. So what did you guys think about this prom night episode from Supergirl? Did it meet your expectations? Did you go in with low expectations and walked out really enjoying yourself? I definitely want to go ahead and know what you guys thought about this week's episode in the live chat or the comment section box below. But if for some reason, if there's anything else that I wind up missing, if you want to talk about other characters, other storyline details that maybe I skimmed over or that you guys want to go into further detail about, definitely go ahead and let's continue this conversation in the comment section box below, guys. But other than that, if you want to follow us on social media, you can certainly do so right here at A+ Opinions. Very active over on Twitter as well as our main Facebook page. And you can definitely check us out over on Instagram as well as Twitch for you gamers as well. But until next time, guys, do me a big favor. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And as always, keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.